Kuzuya is an apocalypse survivor running through the streets of the ruined sarcophagus city while being chased by a group of anti-personnel tanks. He understands that the tanks are programmed to keep intruders out, but this place has been abandoned for decades at this point, so he wishes they'd just power down already. He ends up ducking into a nearby building and he starts rummaging around for any available supplies, but as he is doing so, he stumbles into a room and finds a girl waiting for him. He instinctively pulls out his gun and aims it at her because he wasn't expecting to see someone out here, but even though she's got a gun in her face right now, the girl doesn't even flinch. Instead, she cheerfully welcomes Kuzuya to the planetarium as the 2 millionth customer, and upon taking a closer look at her, Kuzuya realizes she's not an actual human. To be sure, he asks her if she's a robot, and Hoshino confirms it, going on to explain that she is the one in charge of the planetarium's presentation. She also wanted to prepare a bouquet for him, but for some reason, when she made a call to the local flower shop, no one answered, so she had to get a little creative with what she had on hand. Kuzuya asks her if she's broken or something because there's no way this can be considered a bouquet, and as a matter of fact, Hoshino tells him she is a little broken since there's a bug in her self-diagnostics code and her emergency battery units need to be replaced, but that won't stop her from fulfilling her purpose. She invites Kuzuya to stay and watch the show, and she seems pretty insistent on it, so he decides it couldn't hurt to humor her a little. He asks her what the show is about, so she explains that it's of all the stars in the sky, and he's actually rather intrigued now since it had been years since he last got to see the stars. However, as the show is about to begin, the device that's supposed to project the show, affectionately named Yena, just isn't working. Hoshino tries her best to get Yena to turn on, but she wasn't designed to perform repairs like these, so she apologizes to Kuzuya and tells him the show for today is going to be delayed until a repair technician can come out to repair Yena. To get Hoshino to leave him alone, he tells her he's just going to take a walk so she can call him when the imaginary repair technician arrives, fully intent on never returning to this place again, but then he hears Hoshino say that she will be eagerly awaiting his return because as a robot, nothing brings her greater joy than getting to fulfill her purpose, and she was really worried that her mistake earlier would make him leave and never return. Hearing that makes Kuzuya feel a little guilty about leaving, plus it's dangerous to travel at night, so he ends up deciding to stay at the planetarium so he can fix the stupid projector and Hoshino can fulfill her purpose as a robot. Though that's a lot easier said than done since this machine is way more complicated than he thought it would be. While Kuzuya is tinkering, Hoshino eagerly watches him work and asks if he will be able to finish in time for tomorrow's show, but he tells her it's going to take a lot longer than one day to get this thing back up and running. He ends up noticing that one of the bulbs is burnt out and that may be part of the problem, so he asks Hoshino if she knows where he can get a replacement. But just then she tells him that it is getting close to midnight and according to her energy-saving protocol, she is required to power down to conserve energy, so she will come back online at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Then before Kuzuya could say anything, she goes into sleep mode. The next day, Hoshino finds a bunch of spare bulbs for Kuzuya to use to repair the projector, and after a long day of work, he eventually gets the projector back up and running, and Hoshino is overjoyed because this means she can finally begin her presentation, so Kuzuya takes a seat and she gets ready to start. Hoshino begins telling him all about the constellations and the stories behind them, and he's really enjoying it so far, but all of a sudden the projection goes dark and Hoshino becomes concerned because she thinks it might be broken again. Kuzuya heads over to the main fuse box to see if that's the problem, but all the fuses are still intact, so he comes to the conclusion that the power must have gone out. Hoshino doesn't understand what he means since if the power went out, then the backup generators should have turned on by now, but Kuzuya explains that the backups are already gone. This place has been receiving a low but steady supply of power for the past few decades thanks to those generators, and it's a miracle that they've lasted so long, but they finally gave out today. Hoshino grows concerned because without any electricity, she won't be able to perform the show as intended, but Kuzuya can tell how much she truly cares about the stars. So knowing there's no way to restore the electricity, he tells her he wouldn't mind if she just told him the stories without the projection, because he's sure her words will be more than enough to convey the message. Hoshino is willing to give it a try as long as Kuzuya is okay with it, so he takes his seat, and Hoshino continues telling him all about the history of humanity and their fascination with the stars, and her story is so vivid that he can imagine every image as if it were really there. With the current state of the world, it has been a long time since he even bothered to think about the stars, but he can say with certainty that he will never forget the stars that Hoshino has shown him today. The next morning, Kuzuya wakes up and tells Hoshino that he really enjoyed her show. She's really happy to hear that Kuzuya liked the show even though the projections stopped working, but he says it's time for him to get going. Before he leaves, he pauses for a moment to ask what's going on happened to Hoshino once he leaves, but it's pretty obvious that she'll lose power eventually and become inactive soon, so he doesn't bother asking. He tells Hoshino to wish him luck as he walks out the front door, but just then she calls out to him and asks if the journey he's about to take is going to be dangerous. Kazuya admits that it's not exactly safe, so Hoshino asks him if he plans to take the subway. To be honest, he would prefer to take the subway, but the system stopped working ages ago when most of the electricity went out. Hoshino asks if he will at least be able to travel with a vehicle of some kind, so he tells her he plans to leave with his car, if it's still there. Hoshino asks him if that means his car is parked somewhere in a 3-kilometer radius, and Kazuya says that sounds about right, but he wonders why Hoshino is so interested in knowing where he parked. As he asks that question, she tells him she would normally request permission to leave the planetarium, but her manager doesn't seem to be responding right now, and in cases like this, she's allowed to make decisions on her own. So she tells Kazuya she would like to walk with him to make sure he gets to his car safely. Kazuya is surprised by Hoshino's sudden offer, but she seems serious about it, so they both put on raincoats and prepare to leave. Before they head out, Kazuya asks Hoshino how much charge she still has left in her batteries, so she informs him that she's got 4 days worth of operational battery life left, so it should be enough for her to escort him to his car and then make it back on her own. As they walk through the city, Hoshino is confused by all the damage since she rarely ever sets foot outside the planetarium, so she asks Kazuya if it was caused by a car accident or explosion. Kazuya tells her it could be from combat during the war, but he has a hunch that scavengers have been through this area in the past few years. She finds it hard to believe that the streets are so empty, but she assumes it must just be because of the rain, so she doesn't give it a second thought. They eventually make it to the city walls, but there's a big problem because Kazuya spots a giant crawler guarding the exit, and he's going to need to destroy it to get out of here. Meanwhile, Hoshino asks him what he intends to do, and he tells her he plans to go hunt the crawler, but after that, he's leaving the city and won't be coming back. Hoshino tells him that's fine because she can make her way back to the planetarium by herself, but he tells her she's not understanding the situation. There's no more power at the planetarium, so if she goes there, she won't have power anymore and no one will ever visit her again. Hoshino tells him he doesn't need to worry about her because she is prepared to wait as long as it takes for the electricity to return to the city, but she doesn't understand his point. This city is completely abandoned and no humans are ever going to come here again, so if she wants to continue fulfilling her purpose of telling humans about the stars, her best option is to come with him right now. Hoshino tells him she would need to ask for permission from her manager for such a request, but Kazuya says all her superiors are likely already dead, so she needs to make this decision on her own. He still needs to deal with the crawler before he can get out of the city, so he tells Hoshino to sit tight and wait here until he gets back. A little while later, Kazuya finds his way into one of the buildings nearby so he can aim at the crawler, and as he does so, he thinks about the logistics of taking care of Hoshino. Getting her a charging station for her would be expensive but not impossible, and he is confident he could build her a portable projector, so as long as they can get out of this city, she can still share her star presentations with the world. However, as he fires his shot, he misses the crawler's vital systems, and now that it knows where he is, it returns fire. A section of the building collapsed, and Kazuya's leg is crushed underneath some rubble, so he can't move around efficiently anymore. Things aren't looking good for him because it's only a matter of time before the crawler guns him down, and if he tries taking a shot right now, it will definitely notice him. However, as he looks up, he sees Hoshino walking out into the open straight towards the crawler. He wants to yell for her to stop, but that wouldn't do any good at this point, so instead he loads his gun and fires his last shot at the crawler as it unloads into Hoshino. He does manage to blow the crawler up, but not before the bottom half of Hoshino's body was blown clean off. Kazuya rushes over to check on Hoshino, but the damage looks pretty bad, however. Hoshino tells him he doesn't need to worry too much since she wasn't designed to feel pain, so this doesn't hurt at all. She also apologizes to him for disobeying his instructions earlier, but when she saw the crawler robot attacking him, she thought something must be wrong with it, and she didn't want it to end up hurting Kazuya, so she tried sending an emergency stop signal to it. However, it looks like the crawler ignored her signal. As she lays there, Hoshino flips through some of her wonderful memories back when the world was normal and so many people used to love her shows, and hardly a day went by without her making them smile. But then the day before everything went wrong, her development crew left her one final directive, telling her to take care of the planetarium until they get back, but that was 29 years ago. When she consulted all of the data, she came to the conclusion that no humans would ever be coming back, but she couldn't bear to accept that, so instead she came to the conclusion that her program must have been broken. She was so happy when Kazuya arrived because it made her think that people may actually still care about her existence, but that was too optimistic of her. She's been actively trying to ignore it, but there's no denying that the world is broken, and Kazuya is likely the last customer she will ever have the pleasure of serving. Her batteries were damaged, so she only has 2 minutes worth of power left, so she asks Kazuya to do her a little favor. She tells him that there's a little slot behind her airport, and it holds a memory card, which contains everything about Hoshino's programs and memories, so she asks him to take care of it, because if he is able to find a new body for her, then she can come back to life and continue working. But even if he can't find her a new body, she tells him there's no need to be sad because she is grateful to have gotten to meet him. Hoshino's vision then cuts out as her systems begin to lose power, and Kazuya can do nothing but watch as she shuts down for good. He knows there's realistically no way he's going to find another body for Hoshino, but he's still going to try regardless, so he takes out her memory card and puts it in a container to keep it safe in case. He then turns around and walks out into the world, unsure of what he may find out there.